All right, let's go. As Juan Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking in for a daily Move Swiftly thought, giving you a perspective on teamwork that you will not get anywhere else. Let's get into this. Let's get into the whole Cam Newton Brawl situation. All right, so couple things we have to address. All right, first and foremost, before I address anything else, this is inexcusable. It's absolutely inexcusable for grown-ass men who are in the business of serving kids. Told you a couple of weeks ago the issues that 7-on-7 and these third-party scholastic, these third-party influences, these organizations that are not the actual high school or the college coach. I told you the problems and the issues that come up when you get these 7-on-7 leagues where everybody's just trying to get recruited. It becomes a big old dick measuring contest where, oh, my dog is this, my guy is this. It's an absolute tragedy. All right. So first and foremost, amongst anything, it's absolutely inexcusable for them to be fighting like that. However, again, I'm a football guy. I get it. There's a lot of coaches that do a whole lot of talking. And at some point, it gets to a point where you're like, look, enough is enough. So I get it because I'm a football guy and I've been in these environments, all right? So a couple things that we have to recognize and that we have to address when it comes to this situation. First and foremost, all right? And this is why I purposely gave myself a couple days to see the reaction, to see who was going to step up, to see which side was going to actually come on camera, speak on the situation, which adult was going to step up and apologize for the way they acted this past Sunday. I'm recording this on Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. So this past Sunday, there was a brawl with Cam Newton's 7-on-7 team and the team that they were playing against. I think it's TPS or something like that, right? So again, I gave myself a couple days to see who was going to step up and actually say something and, come out and apologize to the young man and all that kind of stuff. And here's the reality of the situation. Initially, when people and this is why it's important that you don't initially react to stuff. You have to take your time. When you're not there, when you're just going off clips that go viral and all that, you should not be speaking on anything until more information comes out before you just say the wrong shit. And people with these big platforms, they go on these national platforms and they start talking stuff that they don't even know what happened. They're going off just a minute and a half clip that went viral on the internet. So a lot of people went out and said, okay, took Cam Newton's side, and Cam Newton was the one who was wrong. Then you need to be looking up to Cam Newton. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily wrong when it comes to that. What I'm saying is let's look at the facts. Let's look at the reality of the situation. As big as Cam Newton's platform is, as much podcast as he has, as much access as he has to all these major people, why hasn't Cam Newton come on his show, I think it's called 4th and Goal or 4th and 1 or something like that. Why hasn't he come on his show yet and explained the entire situation and how the entire situation went, if he was in the right in this situation? But what did happen yesterday was the organization in which he was going against, the organization in which he was fighting, I think it was TP Top Shelf or something like that. They actually went on a podcast. There's a clip dropped in which they spoke on the situation. And first and foremost, they apologized. For what happened. And then secondly, they explained why it happened. It's like, look, the guy's been talking crazy to us, and they were referring to Cam Newton. They said, look, bro's been talking crazy to us for years at this point, and it just got to a point, and he's not defending it. He's not saying it was right. He was like, it just gets to a point where you're like, look, enough is enough. You've been talking crazy for years to us, and I get that he funds the thing, he bankrolls the whole thing, but this is the problem when we put these athletes on a pedestal and we just go off clips and we create our own narratives and we just try to be right, all right? So all of this has me thinking about, the first experience I had when it came to coaches fighting coach. And again, it's football. It's going to happen. You want to have coaches that stick up for their players. You don't want it to get to the point where it's physical, but you want to have a coach that's going to go out there and he's going to go at it with another coach. He's not going to be scared to scrap if that's what it comes to. You don't want them to scrap, and you hope as grown adults they keep it from getting to the point in which they have to scrap. But at the same time, you want to know you have a coach that got some fight in him, that is willing to fight for you. That's the way it should be, all right? I'm just telling you the facts. Again, don't want it to get to blows, but you got to have a coach that's willing to go to blows if it gets to that point. If a coach keeps on chirping and keeps on chirping and keeps on chirping and keeps on chirping, right? So the first time I've ever experienced it, this was as a player. I was in third grade. And I remember this was when I was playing for the Briggs Cheney White Oak Warriors. This was my heartbreak Coach Art, Coach Art, who had passed away that year. It was the regular season game when we were playing against Montgomery Village, and all the games, from 75 pounds to 85 pounds to 95 to 110, all the games between us and Montgomery Village was a very tight battle because it was a huge rivalry. We were the White Oak Warriors, they were the Montgomery Village Chiefs. There was a lot of the coaches from MV came over to us and all that kind of stuff. So there was a huge rivalry, right? So the end of the game, the 110 game happened, and we won like literally on the last play. And the coaches just started going at each other. I mean, just brawling. The whole field just lit up with coaches. You had moms pushing us to the side, making sure, because you can't be too safe. You never know if anybody got any weapons, anybody gonna fire off or anything like that. So eventually the fight died down, and Coach Bobby, who dropped us home, it was myself and a guy named Mark Dawes. Shout out to Mark Dawes if you listen. I don't know what you're up to these days, but hopefully all is well with you, bro. So it was Mark Dawes and me, or Mark Dawes and I. Coach Bobby dropped us home that day, and he was talking about the fight, and he was talking about how he was out there throwing for you guys. It was actually his first year with the organization, right? So by the end of the ride home, Coach Bobby looks at us all. He goes, look, I don't want y'all to think what I did was right. It was just us three there. And, again, Coach Bobby, little 4'3" guy, and, he's black coach, all that kind of stuff. He looks at us, he goes, look, I don't want y'all to think what I did was right. It wasn't right that we, as grown adults, to be fighting in the game and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I want Cam Newton to come out and say. I want Cam Newton to come out. I get that the other coach did it, but I want someone like the Cam Newtons of the world who has the platform, who is famous, to come out and say, hey, it was not right for us to get to blows and all that kind of stuff. That's what needs to happen. That's how you make things right, not by just sitting back in your mansion or wherever you are and just chilling. You know what I'm saying? And having the other person who did get into the scuffle come out and say he was wrong. That's what needs to happen, all right? I have a whole lot more. In fact, I do a whole ton of. I have a whole podcast episode on this very topic. I believe it's called Youth Football Fights, where I break down the type of fighting where it's you got to have fight in you, you got to be willing to fight, or you got to have some ability to stick up for certain people and have some backbone and all that. So just check that out on the Move Swiftly podcast, which is the same podcast that this will be on. If you're listening to this on the Move Swiftly podcast, just hit the follow button. The main website to check out to dive deeper into all my work is makeyourmove.com. That's makeyourmove.com. One-stop shop for all your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker checking out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.